This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Scott Howell.
Hello, good friends and neighbors. Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast, brought to you by the Friends and Neighbors Group of the greater Chattanooga area. Again, as the announcer told you, I'm Scott Howell, and I'm your host for today. You know, a lot of people ask, what is the purpose of the Good Neighbor Podcast? Well, what we desire to do is bring an awareness to the residents of our communities, regarding locally owned and or operated businesses in the greater Chattanooga area, from Cleveland to Dalton, from Jasper to Benton, everybody in between. All of our small businesses are important to us. I guess we all really know this, but sometimes don't think about it like we should. Small businesses are the backbone of our communities, and they really need our support. And every local business has a story to tell, and we just want to help them to tell it loud and proud. And joining me today is our good neighbor, Benjamin Hall at Elite Insurance Group. So, Benjamin, glad to have you here on the podcast with us today.
Happy to be here, man. I'm very excited. Very excited. Appreciate you having me on here. So I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, that's my pleasure. And, we want to learn all we can about you and what you do there at Elite Insurance Group. But before we dive into the business part, I would just like to stop a moment and give you a chance to tell a little bit about yourself and your family, whatever you'd like to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm Chattanooga born and bred, lived here my whole entire life. I was born in not too far down the road from where I'm at in East Ridge. Family grew up here, mom and dad both. I'm a big family guy. I went to East Hamilton High School. Went there when it opened, graduated from there. Met my wife here at UTC, and she's actually from Nashville. But yeah, big family guy, man. I love being around people that, I guess, are fun, loving. I love just hanging out with my family. That's one of my biggest things. And we try to build that connection with all of our clients as well and stuff like that. But we'll get into that later. And I do want to say too, just because, people probably thinking, oh, insurance and, falling asleep talking about it. But I'm going to try to make it as, interactive and fun as possible today. So, again, that's just a little bit about me. Chattanooga born and bred, and just here to serve the community. So,
yeah, I know what you mean. When I first started out in my career, I worked in insurance as well. I told people, I said, I've never met one person yet that when they were a little kid and they said, what do you want to do when you grow up? They said, I want to be an insurance agent.
yeah, you're right about that, man. We're the guys that, when you meet somebody at a party and they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm an insurance. People usually walk the other way. So, but you got
to find a more creative way of telling that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the garbage men, they're not garbage men; they're sanitation engineers, right?
Exactly. I like it.
Oh my goodness! So, how's your wife like Chattanooga, coming from the big city of Nashville?
Yeah, no, she's actually from a little bit north of Nashville. It's Jolton. It's actually a really small town. I think it's about halfway between Nashville and the Kentucky line. So her dad's worked at UPS his whole entire life. She was the first one to go to college and graduate in that side of the family. So super exciting stuff there.
That's great.
And yeah, she's awesome. She's my backbone. I mean, she's the brains of the operation, and the looks. I'm married up. So we'll just say that.
So she works with you in the business?
No, she's not. No, she's in property management. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. So I've got a relative that lives up in Portland, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Which is not too far from Jolton. Yeah,
not too far at all. Absolutely, yeah.
I'm a little bit familiar with that area. But what was your wife's name?
Heather.
Hello, Heather. If nobody else watches this podcast, you will, Heather.
Yeah, she will. Yeah, she's getting coffee. No, best believe it. Absolutely.
She'll be on there saying, "Oh, did you embarrass me?" And what did you say?
Well, more embarrass myself, which embarrass her. So we're a team. So if I embarrass myself, it's her included. So.
Well, so let's just dive in and tell us all about Elite Insurance Group and what you do, what you offer to our listeners there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, insurance is insurance, right? It's boring. One thing that I like to do is I tell people that, we all pay for insurance every month, right? And I'd say 95% of people don't know what they're paying for every month. You know what I'm saying? They just pay for insurance because they know we have to have it, and you get a ticket if you don't. You know what I'm saying? But a little bit about us is we're an independent group. We've been independent since it's been about 2.5 years. So I joined on right as we went independent. The office that I was with Farmers for about 6 years, I think.
Okay.
And the owner, Taylor, who is actually a relative of mine, came to me when I was getting my insurance license, and he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about going independent. Would you be interested in coming on? We're, doing like this group. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be Elite Insurance." We talked about, anyways, I was there from the beginning, so we got to talk about the logo, the colors, just everything. So I really feel invested in this. I don't pay the light bill, but I feel like, I play a big part in building what we have, because we're all big on just, that family connection. You'll hear me say that a lot. Everybody, we're 4-man office here. We've got 3 agents and an office manager who is like the heart and soul of what we do here. She keeps us running. Her name's Cassandra. And if you ever call, you'll likely hear her. She's the one that answers the phone, keeps the day-to-day going. But yeah, we're just independent group. I myself specialize in property and casualty, which just means, your personal lines. So like home, auto, umbrella. And then I'm trying to dive into commercial insurance as well. So just a little bit about us and what we do. But
now, you specialize more in the P&C side, what we call the P&C, the property and casualty side.
Exactly.
Okay. Does your agency offer any of the other services like life and health or anything like that?
Yeah, we've got another agent that does life. I don't have my life and health license just because I knew I wanted to kind of focus more on this. I think eventually I'll probably do it just because it is a good, tool belt to have. But since, somebody else in the office does it, we don't really go after that, I guess, so to say, as much. But it is something that we have the ability to offer. If one of our clients is like, "Hey, Ben, I want to look into life insurance," I'm like, "Hey, I got a guy in my office. I can get you connected." So
right. Well, like you said, the property and casualty, especially the I guess the casualty side, or P&C covers both. I shouldn't say that, but when we look at our car insurance, that's something that we kind of feel like that. Yeah, we need it, but if we ever use it, but in the meantime, until we need it, we fight. We're kind of forced to have it.
Exactly.
The old saying used to be about insurance. I don't know if people still say this or not. This is a necessary evil.
Yes.
But I don't think it's an evil. It's just it don't matter what it is. You buy something and you sit in the corner. After 6 months, you look at it and go, "What did I buy that for?" You don't use it. You're like, "What did I buy that for?" But
exactly
when you need it, it's there.
Yeah, and that's one thing I try to stress whenever I'm talking with either new clients or old clients, whatever that may be, when we're talking about, just because, one thing I try to pride myself on, and what I try to do with every single transaction and client that I deal with, is just education. Again, going back to that same point and making sure they understand exactly what it is. A lot of people, you get your declaration of insurance page, right? For whether that be your home or your auto, right? And you're just looking at a bunch of names or words and numbers, right? You're just like, oh, okay, great. Insurance, right? I want to make sure people understand, hey, this is what this is. This is what this is. Okay, I'm covered. So that way, if you get in a car wreck or something happens at your house, right? Storm comes through and a tree falls on your house or whatever, right? You're scared, right? Because that's a scary time. But you're like, okay, this is why I have insurance. I know I'm covered. Let me call Ben. Let me call, Elite. Let me get the process going. Because again, people that go online and buy car insurance, or you can even do that with home insurance now. If you don't have an insurance license, nine times out of 10, you don't know what you're paying for. You're just like, I gotta have insurance, so I'm gonna go online, click a button, and buy it. And those companies don't care about you. They don't care. They're just like, we'll just get them whatever they want, and
whatever the cheapest thing we can get them in to get them to say yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it may not fit. Because, I've seen people before that I've never had anybody yet tell me insurance is a necessary evil when I'm delivering a claims check.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, I worked in it for several years, and I've never had anyone tell me when I delivered a claims check, "Oh, this is a necessary evil." No, they were happy to see me. But I've known those families too that didn't have what they needed.
Yeah.
Too many times they say, "Oh, just give me the minimum." Just give me the minimum, when it comes to car insurance. Just give me the minimum and let me get by what I have to get by with. Well, I don't know, is the minimum still $25.50?
Yeah, $25.50. Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
So you tell me what that pays out if I only have the minimum and I have to use it. What does that do for me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll give you a great example of somebody local. I won't mention any names, but I'll give you a great example of how this comes into play. So 2550, when you're looking at that, that's your bodily injury liability limits, right? That's what the insurance company is going to pay out in the event that you're in an at-fault accident and someone's injured, right? That pays out medical bills. I mean, if you get in an accident, you in at-fault accident, you're on the hook for the medical bills, any lost wages that the at-fault or the injured party may incur, physical therapy. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. People don't understand that stuff adds up, right? So that 2550 means $25,000 per person up to $50,000 per accident, right? And that's called state minimums too. That's what I tell people. I'm like, that is the lowest of the low of coverage that you can carry.
Yes.
So what that does is, we'll give you a perfect example. Say you're riding your bike, right? And I'm pulling out. You're riding your bike downtown. I'm pull out and I hit you on that bike, okay? And I went online. I purchased my policy and I'm carrying 2550. Okay, where I'm carrying state minimums. I hit you on that bike, okay? And you've got $100,000 in medical bills that I owe you because I hit you, right? Well, my policy that I went online and bought is only going to pay me $25,000.
Yes,
because that's what I agreed to pay, and that's the policy limits, right? So they're going to cut me a check for $25,000, and then you're going to hire one of the thousands of lawyers that we see on the billboard, and you're going to come after me for that $75,000. And since I'm obviously at fault, right? I'm on the hook for that 75, and you can come after it. And this is what I tell people all the time. You can come after it and you garnish up to 25% of my wages. You can come after any liquid assets that I may have. And you can even put a lien on the home that I own, meaning you'll get your money before I do if I sell it. I mean, people don't understand, man. It's pennies on the dollar, right? I mean, if we were to include, because we don't even quote statements here at my office. We only do the middle ground, which is 100, 300 and up. We don't want to put people in those circumstances, and even if it means losing business, right? Because losing that sale is a lot better than writing that state minimum business and getting a call from somebody and saying, why didn't you do this? Or why am I on the hook? Right? I mean, because that's life-changing stuff, man. None of us have $75,000 sitting in the bank account, waiting to be paid out for an insurance claim, right? That's another thing that I harp on is, why pay for insurance if you're going to have to pay for it again? We don't want that. So
that's a good statement. That's a strong statement, because if you don't believe that happens to people, it does. Watch the newspapers. Watch the next time there's a bad accident, follow the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and again, the story that I just shared, without sharing names, that's something that happened locally. It happened to somebody around here, and so
it happens every day.
Don't know. Yeah, people don't believe it until it happens to them. So that's what we try to do is keep, if that were to happen to our insureds or something like that, obviously God forbid, but they're going to be protected, and, insurance is going to do what it's there to do. Right. So.
And you were talking about the medical side.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that a lot of us are aware of how many $200,000 automobiles are on the road.
Oh yeah.
If you don't believe it, just find your, and I'm not going to call anybody out here, but because those, I'm not saying those cars aren't worth it, but find your high-end car dealership. I'm talking about that one that you don't hardly know of anybody that drives it. Yeah. And you go to that dealership and go look at their sticker prices. Mm-hmm. And then you will quickly leave that lot, realizing, number one, I can't afford that car probably, but number two, that if I can't afford to have a wreck with that car either.
Yeah, exactly.
You go back and then look at and find out how much insurance you've got, and realize if you're in an at-fault accident with $150,000, $200,000, $250,000, these are on the roads, people.
Yeah,
people driving these cars on the road. You can go to Atlanta and buy a Maserati Bora.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're at fault in an accident with all those vehicles, now you're on the line for it.
Yeah, you don't have to not only pay for the medical expenses, you're paying for their vehicle too. And you're right. I mean, you're carrying state mins, right? With state mins, that 2550 also carries $25,000 of property damage that, covers exactly what you're talking about. The whatever property damage, vehicle, sidewalks, light posts, whatever that may be. You can't even buy a new car for $25,000 now. You know what I mean? So
they stopped making those Yugos. So
your average car, man's 30 and up. So it's people. Again, people don't know what they don't know, and that's one thing I try to do is just educate. And again, I'll say it. You'll hear me say it a lot in this podcast. And if I ever do business with whoever is listening to this, education, because you don't know what you don't know. And it's my job as, a licensed professional to educate people. And at the end of the day, they make those decisions, right? I can't force anybody to carry, $500,000 in liability, but I can make that suggestion and tell you why it's important, right? And at the end of the day, you make that choice on, if that's something you want to do or not. So
talk to us a little bit about an umbrella policy. I think a lot of people don't really understand what that does for them.
Absolutely. So umbrella policies, what I tell people is the cheapest $1 million you ever purchase. That's one thing I always lead off with, just because an umbrella policy is something literally that covers your home and your auto, right? And talking about those liability limits, right? So full coverage, right? You'll hear that term a lot in insurance. Full coverage is a myth. You're never fully covered, right? You can only be as covered as much as possible. Even full coverage on insurance, right? If you had the max coverage that you could get in automotive insurance, you're still just carrying 500, and that's $500,000 each. What if those limits were never be exceeded? Because who knows, right? You get in a wreck on the interstate and it's a pileup, right? And you're, $1 million in. Yeah, you don't have $1 million of coverage. You got 500, and that's the max, right? So if that were to ever happen, right, that's where that umbrella policy is going to step in. Anytime I talk about liability, I tell people liability is there to protect your financial well-being, your financial presence, and your financial future. So an umbrella policy is just extra, backup in the event that, those liability limits are ever to be maxed out in an at-fault accident, or if we're talking home insurance, stuff like that. I mean, I've heard horror stories about, people having a big group of people over for like a Thanksgiving dinner, right? And somebody pulls out the turkey, drops it on somebody's foot. They freak out and they knock somebody off. And, 10 minutes later, you're $2 million into suit because your friends are injured and they're suing you. So there's so many crazy life circumstances. But again, an umbrella is just there for extra backup to protect your financial future and your financial presence and financial well-being as a whole, right? Because again, you don't know what you don't know until it happens to you. And go ahead.
I think thank you for explaining that, because and what I remember, what I was shocked about when you say $1 million. Wow, that's got to be expensive. Yeah. I was so surprised if you're compared to what your homeowners and your auto is together, what a small percentage of that total amount is for an umbrella policy. I was shocked, When I realized what it costs to have an umbrella, I'm like, it's crazy not to have one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, again, without spitting specific numbers, I mean, your average, say husband and wife household, right, with a home and an auto, you're looking at $1 million in umbrella, anywhere from $200 to $300 for the entire year. And again, sometimes it's even cheaper than that if you don't have any claims history or stuff of that nature. So, you're talking $200 a year for $1 million of coverage. I mean, again, cheapest $1 million you ever buy. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's, if you have a homeowners and you have a auto policy, you own a home and you have one of those. You please ask what it costs to get umbrella, because I'm telling you, you'll be shocked. If you don't know, you'll be shocked, and it's well worth the money. I don't care what anybody says. If you never have to use it, it didn't cost that much. But if you ever need it, oh my goodness, you'll be so glad you did. Because, not only just property damage and things like that, but like you're talking about people suing. I mean, how many $1 million settlements do you hear people having now, where they, so it's crazy.
People are greedy, man. Money changes people. You see that.
You think, that's my friend. They wouldn't do me that way. Well, you might be
until somebody's in their ear saying, oh man, you could get, $1.5 million payout from this accident if you hire this lawyer. And they're like, 1.5 million. I mean, that's life-changing money, So people,
for a lot of people it is, yeah. So, absolutely. So, what kind of myths and misconceptions do you hear when people, want to talk to you about insurance? What kind of things do you hear from folks that you kind of have to talk to them about and settle their mind about?
Yeah. Oh man. There's so many of them, man. There's so many. I mean, like we talked about the full coverage. We went into that. Full coverage is a myth, But one of my favorite myths is that people think we have a magic button. We're like, let's see, let's just push this button and see what happens. And it's like the Wheel of Fortune, and whatever it lands on is, what your yearly premium is going to be. That's something that I hear, some people are just like, well, can't you just make that go down? And I'm like, oh man, I wish I could, That's a myth, is that people think, there's a magic button that we press and it spits out a premium that they're going to pay. And if it's high, it's high. And we love that it's high. No, that's not how it goes. Every carrier has a different risk, has a different guidelines. Everybody has what they want, you know what I mean? And if you either fit that mold or you halfway fit in that mold, and your premium is going to reflect that. And there's so many things that go into factoring that number that spits out at the end of the day, whether you're buying a home, whether you're buying a car, if me and you were to go in and buy a house, right, and we would get insurance on it, if you sold it to me, my insurance on that house is not going to be the same as yours, because we have different claims history, we have different credit history, we have different all kinds of crazy stuff, the insurance score. I mean, there's so many things that go into factoring that premium at the end of the day that people don't understand and that we have no control over,
Right. I think that's the main thing that when you say people need to understand that this is not like going down the flea market and buying something and you can negotiate on the price.
Exactly.
Whatever price the company assigns, that's just what you have to go with, right, Ben?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So one of the things I want you to do too, I want you to explain when we first came on, you said that, your agency was with farmers and you want to go independent. Some people might not understand exactly what that means, independent. So explain that versus being part of a company, tell people what independent actually means in your industry.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, no. So just to give an example, right? So farmers, if you're a farmer's agent, you only offer farmers, right? You work for farmers. You are at their mercy. You do what they say. You're the corporate man, as I like to say. Independent, we're a small business. We work for the clients. We have the ability to offer multiple carriers. We don't work for these carriers. They work for us, right? We give them business. So they want to help us out, right? So that's a big thing. And, being independent, people always think, oh, if you're a brokerage, that means broker fees. But again, that's not the case. We get appointments with these carriers and they pay us to write business. That's just how it goes, right? It's a one-way transaction. It's not like, we're tacking on fees or anything like that, man. It's just being independent means we work for the client. That's what I tell people. We work for the client. We don't work for the company. So that gives us great knowledge in the industry, because we see all these different carrier appetites and how they value things and how they look at things and how they deal with claims. So when we're evaluating people and their risks, it gives us a better opportunity to place them with a better carrier that's going to fit them better, rather than just offering one product and being tied to whatever that product is. So it's not only great for us, but it's just great for our clients, because, for instance, right now, I mean, everybody knows insurance is crazy. It's going up, as is everything else, right? So, whether you've been with this carrier for 10 years and we're like, hey, Ben, my rates have just gone up the last 3 or 4 years. Can we shop it around? Rather than you calling 10 different offices, you just give me a shout that that the same person you've dealt with for the last 5 years. I'm like, yeah, I'd be happy to. And I shop you with this, 10 plus carriers that we offer. And I either come back and like, hey, we found a better rate here. Or I'm like, well, you're good where you're at compared to these other 10 people. You're $2,000, $3,000 under the market average. And some people appreciate that. And they're like, they get that, the asset of having that knowledge. And then some people, are like, whatever, I'm still going to call Johnny on the corner, and again, that's the name of the game at the end of the day.
Everybody's got a right to have a choice.
Exactly. And I think that comes back to the service that you provide and how you treat your clients. So,
and when you said a while ago, multiple carriers, maybe people in the general public don't really understand what that means, but that really, what if I could just say it and get old Southern talk, what that means is that's really the closest thing that you've got to negotiating. Yeah. Is because you can shop those other carriers and see if somebody has a better rate. Exactly. But also because of your knowledge of those other carriers, if somebody had maybe a ticket or an accident, there's another carrier that maybe one carrier that looks real sharply at that. Yeah. And they would raise your rate, dramatically over something, where another carrier is a little bit more relaxed. Yeah. And the knowledge of that. So when somebody comes in and they have needs and concerns, you can have multiple places to be able to offer them versus, like you said, that if you were only with one group, You would have one place, and if they was denied, they were denied. So
Exactly.
you know.
And we see that a lot with young drivers as well. A lot of these carriers don't have an appetite for young drivers. We have a couple carriers that, don't factor as strongly as a lot of these other guys do.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a big risk that we see is people with young drivers. It's expensive, man. It is. But, if we can cut that cost by $1,000 for people, that's huge, especially nowadays, just with everything being so expensive. So,
yeah. So the name of the game is at the end of this, at the end of this story, if you see that insurance carrier out there that says, hey, you name your price, we'll build you a policy around it. Beware.
Yeah.
Beware, because that may work as long as you don't need them.
Yeah.
But when you need them, you may find out what you got exactly what you paid for. So just beware. And I don't care, who it is. I like the thought of being able to deal with somebody local.
Yeah.
That I can just walk into their office and say, hey, I got a problem.
Yeah.
Instead of being able to get on a 1-800 number and being on hold for 15 minutes just to be able to talk to somebody who don't have a clue about what you're asking anyway,
Exactly. Knows nothing about it.
Yeah. So, man, I've enjoyed this. This has been awesome. Very informative and very, very educational. Like you said, what you like to do. But what I want to do is I want to ask you one more question.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I want you to just go right into telling people how to reach you, how to find out more about you, whether online or offline. Okay. I like asking everybody this question.
Okay.
So if there was one thing that you wish that our listeners could know about Benjamin Hall and Elite Insurance Group, but they probably wouldn't know unless you shared it with them, and you'd like to shout it loud and proud here today on the Good Neighbor Podcast, what would that be?
I would say intention, touch, something. Again, you talk about calling the 1-800 number. We're intentional here in the office. We treat everybody like family. You know what I mean? I want you to have my number. So that if you can't get the office, you're calling me and we're solving your issues. I never want you to, again, if a disaster happens, it's a scary time. And I like to say I'm like your lawyer in court. I want you to have that peace of mind. I want you to feel as part of the family, So I would say touch, intentional, or family. That's one thing I want people to know. If they come to me, if they come to our office, anybody, whether that's me or any other agent, or, if you just call the office and talk to Sandra, we're going to make you feel at home. We're going to make you feel like family. So that's one
great.
thing.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Share with us how to find out about you, how to reach you, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. You can find us at our website, eliteinsuranceTN.com, or find me on Facebook. I'm Ben Hall. I'm huge on Facebook. I love to connect with people on there. So, whether you're looking for insurance or just looking for a friend, please add me on there. That's where I'm big. Or our office is over here off of Lee Highway, right next to Sam's Club. You can find us over there on Vance Road. But yeah, feel free. Facebook and our website's the best way to reach us. I love connecting with people on Facebook. It's where I've gotten a lot of my business and made a lot of friendships and connections on there. So absolutely.
And if somebody just wants to pick up the phone and call, where'd they call that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're so Elite Insurance, again, it's our numbers on Google. You can find us. It's 423-635-7717.
7717. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Well, Ben, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, sir. Thanks for taking time out of your day and being with us.
I appreciate you having me, man. It's been a blast. This has been very, very fun. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, glad to have you. And to all the good neighbors of the greater Chattanooga area, after meeting Benjamin and learning more about the Elite Insurance Group, I know that he hopes you'll take a moment, to consider all they have to offer. If you're looking for car homeowners insurance, give them a shout. Let them shop around for you and see if they can find, especially if you got a unique need or some kind of concern that you feel like you need a little bit more help with. Give him a call and reach out to him. Give him a chance to earn your business. And before ending this episode, I'd like to thank all the listeners out there for taking time out of your busy day to visit with us at the Good Neighbor Podcast. And always remember to support the locally owned and operated businesses in the greater Chattanooga area, from Cleveland to Dalton, from Jasper to Benton. Everybody's important. So this is Scott Howell with the Friends and Neighbors Group. Everyone go out and make this a remarkable day.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpcleveland.com. That's gnpcleveland.com or call 423-380-1984.